he is more than willing to take requests, you know, like a DJ, like a poet DJ. And he is willing to hear from you. So we will be manning the chat. So for those of you who have chosen not to have your cameras on, or you would prefer to type your question into the chat, that is perfectly okay. But he's also willing to hear your voices. And so you can ask what questions you choose at any point. So about the author, Len Lawson received a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration from Winthrop University, a master, an MA in English from National University, and is currently pursuing a PhD. He is a PhD candidate actually in English Literature and Criticism at Indiana University of Pennsylvania. He was the Morris College 2011-2012 Advisor of the Year and 2012-2013 Professor of the Year, along with being a 2013 Excellence in Teaching Award winner from South Carolina Independent Colleges and Universities. His scholarly article, Back to the Future, Approaches to Best Practices in Reflective Teaching, appeared in Cultivating Visionary Leadership by Learning for Global Success, Beyond the Language and Literature Classroom, Cambridge Scholars Publishing, 2015. And I'll put that in the chat. Len is the author of the chapbook, Before the Night Wakes You, and co-editor of Hand in Hand, Poets Respond to Race. Len won the 2016 Jasper Magazine Artist of the Year Award in Literary Arts and was named among 10 South Carolina poets to watch by the Richland County Library in 2018. He was also named a 2018 Sumter, South Carolina Top 20 Professionals Under 40 nominee. Len has been a multiple-time Pushcart Prize and I lost my place here, and Best of the Net nominee as well. He earned a fellowship to the Callaloo Creative Writing Workshop in Barbados, facilitated by 2015 Pulitzer Prize winning poet Greg Partlow. He has also earned fellowships from Vermont Studio Center, Virginia Center for the Creative Arts, and became the inaugural winner of the 2018 Susan Lauter Myers Poetry Fellowship at the Weymouth Center for the Arts, sponsored by the North Carolina Poetry Society. Len has been a finalist for the 2015 inaugural Berfois Poetry Prize, the 2016 Mississippi Review Poetry Prize, the 2016 Yellow Chair Review Chapbook Competition, and the 2018 Gigantic Sequins Poetry Prize. His poetry has also been featured in coffee shops and transit buses in the Columbia, South Carolina metro area. His poetry appears in several anthologies and journals, including Callaloo Journal, African American Review, Verse Daily, and Charleston Currents, selected by South Carolina Poet Laureate Marjorie Wentworth. And Mr. Lawson, thank you for coming. I will turn the floor over to you. Silent clapping, yes.
Thank you for all the virtual claps. I'm really excited to do this with you all. Thank you for being here. And definitely excited to hear your questions and discuss things with you. But let me get the reading part out of the way, and then we'll get to that. So I'm going to start with what I'm calling the title poem, even though it's not like identically the title poem, but I call it that because that's how I see it. So it is called The Black Body is a Wind Chime. Perfect for whistling bullets through, singing discordant yet delicious screams, symphonic scent of burning flesh, climbing Kilimanjaro, leaving trails of blood. The black body is a piccolo, blown into but never kissed, blistering white lips race to apply breath to it, but never desire real intimacy. Muscular music makes men mad with black notes filling their nostrils. String the black bear skin bamboo together and call them bones of holy ghosts, sold on the auction block to the highest sinner. A chanting wind whips resistance through them. So before this was actually a book, a lot of these poems were that I was writing, sort of using the metaphor of the body as different objects and entities. So it started to form sort of like a book, I guess, from that. And that whole idea of a chime, like a wind chime, as we were hearing before from Professor Maxwell. Just how in recent years, like the body has been degraded and trampled, especially the Black body or bodies of color. So I was trying to write celebratory things maybe about the body, but you know, the poetry comes out the way it will, has a mind of its own. So that's essentially where the title came from, like the musical quality of the body, things that come out of it. So that's what I was looking for there. I'm going to do this poem that's close to the end of the book. That it's sort of like, it sounds like sort of spoken word to me, because when I read it, it kind of comes out that way. But people usually enjoy it. When I was a lot younger, we got sort of a mixed crowd here, so you might still remember like when the Cosby Show was running, the character Bud, he was like Rudy's best friend, and they would always get into these gender debates about gender roles and things like that. He was hilarious. So, but people always tell me I used to look like him. So that's like the nature of this, and also with the situation with the Bill Cosby court case, this kind of came into fruition from all of that. This is in which people say you look like Bud from the Cosby Show. First of all, I wouldn't be taking random misogynistic advice on girls from my mythical brother whom no one has ever seen on camera. I mean, was dude in jail? Did he sell drugs? Did he have multiple baby mamas or some other Black stereotype? I mean, I thought the show was supposed to be progressive. I mean, did dude drug and rape countless women, which got him cut from the very first season? I've had my share of friends who were girls. None of them changed my name. And in that way, wasn't Rudy ahead of her time? Isn't she the ultimate feminist? Not taking patriarchy from boys, not even her own father. And why weren't my parents ever seen on the show? Did they abandon me? Wouldn't they too have a brownstone in Brooklyn? Or did I just take the bus or train from Harlem with my dream deferred self, or another borough every time I wanted to argue with Rudy about my own name? Why couldn't Rudy learn any life lessons from my folks? Or do the Huxtables have the monopoly on educating America on uppity Blackness? And after all those years at the pinnacle American house of negritude, why wouldn't we ever talk about being Black? See Tiger Woods. Why didn't Claire Huxtable as an attorney ever warn us about police brutality, about keeping our mouths shut if detained, about them not caring if our parents were doctors, lawyers, judges, politicians, or even policemen and women themselves? I mean, they didn't live on Sesame Street, so I know there was crime around. I mean, I probably should have hung out with Fat Albert and the gang if I wanted to know what life would really be like, and still wouldn't even one of that gang have died from some American tragedy. And wouldn't Dr. Heathcliff Huxtable himself have warned me about making babies before I was ready, seeing as I didn't have any real parents on the show? I mean, he was an OBGYN. Wouldn't he have thought a Black boy should have that talk, let alone with his own son? I mean, with 4 daughters, wouldn't he, of all people, have understood telling a young Black kid in New York about birth control? And wouldn't that be a Zerbert to my cheek if he gave me condoms like he gave Cousin Pam birth control? I might have been better off staying at home with my imaginary family for my imaginary brother to at least attempt to school me on reality instead of being so disillusioned by the Huxtable fantasy that I would not even be worthy of the name my mama gave me. I mean, if she really did give me a name anyway. Or maybe Rudy just softened the blow. Maybe I was an orphan and they just didn't want to tell me. Maybe I was found in a dumpster like in Tupac's Brenda's Got a Baby and given a chance by a black man on a TV show. Maybe he saved me from being killed on the street by police. Maybe I kept coming back to the Huxtable house not to be a statistic. Isn't that the kind of love we crave? Overseen by TV camera angels and boom mic archangels and the heavenly showbiz lights above and the glory of the laugh track engulfing us in prayer. Creating a fake family in a studio because the pain of acknowledging reality is too great. Isn't that what Bill Cosby did? Didn't we all wish we were Huxtable? Wasn't Bud just another one of his illegitimate children? Aren't I mean, first of all, aren't we all? So also in that, I forgot to say that Rudy always called him Kenny. Because he would say, my name is Bud, and she'd say, your name is Kenny. So he just completely changed his name for whatever reason. I'm sorry, his name was Kenny, and she changed it to Bud. That's what I was going to say. Interesting dynamic they had.
But I don't know if I can speak, but she always said Bud. You know,
Yeah.
she didn't say Bud. She was like, your name is Bud.
Yeah. So I'm going to do another Black Body poem. This one is The Black Body Be Like. So I kind of tried, as far as the structure of the poem, I tried to frame it like a what's called a contrapuntal, where you have two columns of poems on a page, and then the columns sort of communicate with each other. They're basically sort of bridges to each other, so you can read them different ways. So you can kind of read this poem several ways. So I'm going to attempt to read the poem the different ways that I have seen it. Black body be like forgotten foreskin, like sweet steps through a chocha jungle, like vibrator razor to the epidermis, like train of chinchilla in December, like mama's whirlwind breath after her baby boy's funeral, like don't put me to bed, no sleep, like eyes memorizing the other side of the universe, like don't wake me, I'm sleep, like breathe, mama, breathe, like butterfly kiss from mink, like silky skin of a hatchet, like goosebumps on areolas, like king and queen in darkest Africa, like armor of black savage. Black body be like forgotten sweet steps through a train of mama's whirlwind. Don't put me to bed, no, don't. Breathe, mama, butterfly silky goosebumps on king and queen in darkest armor of black. Black body be like jungle razor to the epidermis in December after her baby boy's funeral, memorizing the other side of the universe. Me, I'm sleep from mink of a hatchet. Black body be like foreskin, like chocha, like vibrator, like chinchilla, like breath, like sleep, like eyes, like wake, like breathe, like kiss, like skin, like areolas, like Africa, like savage. This next poem is called Plan B. I started out wanting to write about one situation where I rode like an hour away from where I lived in South Carolina to this doctor's office with my girlfriend at the time because she wanted to get a Plan B pill. So I wanted to write about that experience, but then I was just thinking about my experience as a person and as a Black man as well. So, and how we distort images of Black people in our culture. So this is Plan B. For Big Nose, it runs in the family. A mountain erupting from fountains of family loins. Grandma Jean fed daddy with it. and he spit it out onto my oily face, covered my whole body with it. B for big bird beak. My feathers are a darker shade. B for buzzard. Oh no, call me Black Falcon. Tears slide smooth down its slope, rippling in pain as the nostrils flare. I am one big snout. I root, I grunt, I snort. B for bullies who said, hey, tell us what it smells like in China with that thing. Maybe I can dig there with it, pack a bag and swim through the earth led by this golden shovel, past family loins that spawned it. B for blood bones, scars from whips, past singed psyches, and too many games of the dozens, too many laughs at our own people, too many crabs in barrels, gawks at big noses and big lips. B for big butts and thighs, B for big brown eyes, B for blistering tears running raw on jagged brown faces, streaming from ravaged fountains. Even hers. She walks out of the closed room slowly, head down, shuffling her tear-stained feet, big brown eyes low, then straight at me. B for boy. He would have had your nose, she moans. So I was bullied. I forgot to mention I was bullied a lot as a kid for having this huge thing on my face. It was like this big, like when I was 5 years old. So you can imagine. But it runs in my family. So what can you do?
It's a common trait amongst people of color. It's
It
crazy
is.
how people even still make fun of it to this day.
It is. It is. You're exactly right. Okay, I'm gonna read a couple more and then get into some good discussion. I'm gonna do two more. So this one about we're talking about practice.
Can I add that Zach, who is a student, counted all the I's at the end of we're talking about practice.
Yeah. Sort of, it's a tedious process, Zach, I'm sure. So reading this one is always fun because you have to account for all of those sounds in the poem that go like that. But I wanted to do this because I don't know if you haven't heard, there's a big, outstanding, brilliant poet named Franny Choi, and they write about Lil Wayne's song "Pussy Monster," and so she kind of does the same structure with that song that I do for this poem. So I sort of borrowed the form that she used from that. So that's why in other poems I gave her like a shout out, or in other versions of the poem, but it's particularly a form where you just order the words of the poem. So if you haven't seen or read that poem, it does the same thing. But yeah, I mean, this is an iconic interview from Allen Iverson. If you haven't seen it, you know, you can YouTube it and see how many times he says practice. It's hilarious. But I'm going to attempt to read this, and it's going to be long. But here we go. We're talking about practice. Selected words from an excerpt of the infamous Allen Iverson interview arranged according to frequency. Sixer deteriorate downhill, contradicting press conference ball league, 48 minutes, winner city trading, coaching, staff, yada, yada, yada. Die, funny, critique, criticizing, automatically strange, honored microphone matters, obviously cool, tough corner, daughters, trade, players, ain't, upset, praise, your, love, here, hell, tired, you're practicing, plays, superstar, cry, problem, court, organization, everything, hurts, deal, job, job, paid, 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 better, 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 best, 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 Philadelphia, 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 basketball, 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 word, world, world, problems, 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 simple, 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 team, 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 everybody, 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 people, 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 Allen, 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 Iverson, 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 man, 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 human, 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 play, 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 talk, 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 Larry, 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 y'all, 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 shit, 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 coach, 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 MVP, 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 lost, 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 lose, 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 teammates, 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 we, mean, 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 franchise, 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 franchise. That's brown, 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 brown. Player, 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 player. A. Game, 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 game. Hurt, 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 hurt. We're, not, talking, 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 talking. My, practice, 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 practice. Me. You. I.
Ooh.
That must have been fun to say.
Oftentimes not. So this is gonna be my last one. So there's this movie that I love called Groundhog Day, and if you haven't seen it, it is still hilarious after 30 years, in my opinion. If you haven't seen it, not to spoil it, but Bill Murray, he's playing this meteorologist on TV and living in Pittsburgh. And so he has to travel to Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania to cover this festival that they have each year for Groundhog Day, where they watch the groundhog come out. I always forget what it means when the groundhog does his shadow or doesn't see his shadow. So I usually forget like which is which. But anyway, and so he gets, in classic 80s movie fashion, he gets stuck in the same day for a long period of time. And so he learned a lot of things about himself. So using that trope, I decided to write this poem. So thank you all for listening patiently. And let's get to some questions soon. Groundhog Day. Wake up, shower, brush teeth and hair, lotion with cocoa butter, get dressed, drink coffee, drive to work, drive home, stopped by police, demanded to show license, ask why, get cursed out, curse back, reach for license, dead. Wake up, shower, brush teeth and hair, lotion with cocoa butter, get dressed, drink coffee, drive to work, drive home, stopped by police, demanded to show license, be polite. Explain you have a family, be polite. Explain you are reaching for your license, dead. Wake up, shower, brush teeth and hair, lotion with cocoa butter, get dressed, drink coffee, drive to work, drive home, stopped by police, demanded to show license, be polite. Ask how cops' day is going. Get angry at response about too many niggers on the streets. Attempt reasonable conversation about diversity. Get cursed out. Screamed at to show license. Do nothing. Get jerked by the collar. Stay frozen. Gun aimed in your face. Stay frozen. Not even blinking. Get dragged out of car. Attempt to stand. Dead. Wake up, shower, brush teeth and hair, lotion with cocoa butter, get dressed, drink coffee, drive to work, drive home, stopped by police, demanded to show license, drive, 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 get chased by cop, then another, then another, then another, until you lead a troop of squad cars through town, poke head out of window, laugh maniacally, smile at chopper overhead, drive onto the interstate, get cheered by other black men standing by. Remember your family. See your wife's face crying at her TV. See your child asking mommy tough questions about daddy. See your phone ring in the car. Answer with, baby, I love you. Get asked, why are you doing this? Answer, it's the only way out. Hear screams of, come home. Hear child yell, come home, daddy. Hear chopper blades and sirens with wives yelling. Stop the car. Get out. Raise hands over your head. Say to police, I want to go home. Dead. Wake up. Shower. Brush teeth and hair. Lotion with cocoa butter. Get dressed. Drink coffee. Drive to nearest pawn shop. Buy a gun. Drive to work. Leave gun in car. Drive home. Stop by police. Demanded to show license. Grab gun under seat. Point at approaching cop. Relish in cop's fear before screaming, is this what you want? Point gun itself. Dead. Wake up. Shower. Brush teeth and hair. Lotion with cocoa butter. Get dressed. Drink coffee. Drive to work. Look up cop online. Research his credentials. Search for his family on social media. Find his wife. Find their address. Leave work. Go to cop's home. Greet cop's wife at the door. Explain that her husband has killed you each of the last 5 days. Ask why her husband hates black people. Ask how you can convince her husband that you are a man with a family who wants a bright future for his child. See 3 police cars pull up behind you. See her husband get out. Realize she called the police before you approached the door. Raise hands and kneel to the ground. Close your eyes and whisper to your wife you love her. Get beat down by police on the pavement. Get thrown into cop car. Feel broken bones and see with blurry vision out of one eye. Ask cop how many black men he has killed. Hear him cackle and say, not enough. All of them, if I could. Do not survive car ride to jail. Dead. Wake up. Kiss your wife. Kiss your child. Brush teeth and hair. Observe the wisdom and grace of the scarf on your wife's head. Lotion with cocoa butter. Remember the smell of your child moments after leaving the womb. Get dressed. Hug your wife. Hug your child. Cry at the sight of your child's bright face. Pick up child in your arms. Notice the eyes, nose, and smile like yours. Tell your family you won't be home tonight. Hear your shocked wife ask why. Answer through tears, I don't know. Maybe one day, but maybe not today. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Yay. Thank you so much. Thank you for reading. So we're going to open it up to questions. There are several questions in the chat already. I will begin with the first one, unless anyone wants to speak and ask the question directly.
I asked the first question so I could say it. So the first question is, how important is accessibility of meaning? Like, should one have to work hard to solve the poem?
I suppose that's a pretty good question. I think poets are great at posing questions. And so with what we want the readers to do, I suppose, is to join the conversation rather than necessarily come up with solutions to anything. I think poets are like reporters, poets are prophets, poets are, bards, they just examine and observe their environment. So we usually look to poets when we want to look for answers to things, but they help us to see things in a different light, or help us observe the things around us. So I think it's up for discussion rather than I can tell you that it brings a lot of people to the table. In my experience, poetry is an excellent gateway to a lot of the issues that we have in our society. So I would say it opens up the arena for discussing things and hopefully coming to that solution.
Thank you.
So from the chat, we have a question from Dr. Tuning. Dr. Tuning asks, are there any poets that particularly inspire you?
Oh, all the time. Living poets, as it were. So a lot of people think that, the best poets are dead, which is completely not true. We have so many poets to view their work and learn things from. And a lot of poets you see in textbooks now, they didn't write to be in textbooks. They were writing because they wanted to say something or they felt something. So we sort of canonized this whole genre of poetry as, this teachable thing, which it should be taught and it should be experienced in education and in a classroom, but that's not the only place. So to answer the question, yes, there are many poets that inspire me, particularly since I'm from South Carolina. I always mention poets like Terrence Hayes, who is a native South Carolinian, Nikki Finney, also a native South Carolinian. A lot of my doctoral work right now is investigating those poets and more who originated in my state and how they speak to the situation of growing up here, and how they, I guess, sometimes they return on their own terms, whether they have family here or, whether people invite them to be here to read and things like that. So I just bought a stack of poems by particularly African-American male poets, since that's who I am. So I'm always looking at contemporary poets and seeing what they're doing and, trying to be in conversation in them maybe, or, just as a fan even, but yeah, a lot of inspiration.
I wrote a follow-up. I don't know if you saw it. I teach in my English 102 class, Dinesh Smith, and your work reminds me of his.
Oh, wow. It's a humbling compliment. But yeah, I just recently bought a lot of his collections, so I'm looking forward to getting into those. He is so brilliant with his words, definitely.
So Pyong, I'm going to ask your question. It's a two-part question, so I'm going to ask both parts at the same time, unless you want to ask it yourself. Okay. So Pyong's question one, what is the most difficult part of your poem process? And then the second part is, how did publishing your first book change your process of writing before you wrote Chime?
Okay. Thank you for that one. The most difficult part for me, which speaks to our society nowadays, is having patience and letting the poem say what it wants to say. Usually after I write something out, the better poets probably than I am probably know how to wait until the poem manifests. But it's, there's a lot of excitement around for me for writing a poem and just seeing it come alive on the page. And so you want to share it with a lot of people, or at least I want to share it with people, but it's not done cooking yet. So you can't eat a cake until it fully bakes. So, that takes a lot of patience with waiting for the words to enter my space in one way or another, whether that's through maybe a line will come through when I'm driving or walking or just doing whatever I'm doing throughout the day, or in dreams, sometimes that happens, or just lying in bed, I have to wake up and write something. So, that's probably the most difficult part, but it's like a baby waiting to be born. So you have to wait for its full arrival sometimes. How my life changed, or how my process changed. My process is pretty fluid in that I don't just do one thing like consistently, like writing at a certain time of the day, or working with a group, or looking for prompts. I sort of like invite a lot of things in, so I think that keeps me like fresh and not like relying on just one method to get the poems out. I think if I remain open to a lot of different things, then it will allow me to be, on top of what the poem is trying to say itself. I think that poems are organic, so that they want to say something. We just have to listen to what they want to say, because they have their own breath, they have their own words. So part of the editorial process for me is just listening for that, and trying to hear what's happening in the poem. So I wouldn't say the process changed a whole lot.
Okay, we have several questions here, and guys, he wants to hear from you as well. So I'm just going to call on a couple of people so you can ask your poem. So Veronica, I'm going to ask yours because they're general, but then we have specific questions about specific poems. So Veronica's general question is, I lost it. Is there any way to better understand and interpret a poem? And then she says, for her, she's wondering, do you find it easy or difficult to write poetry? But after Veronica, I'm going to tell Joey has a specific question, and Carlina, you have a specific question about different poems. So I'll let Joey and then Carlina go after you answer Veronica's question.
The question again. I have a short attention span sometimes.
Her basic question is there a way to understand and interpret poems better? Is there a strategy?
There are several ways. Since we might be pressed for time a little bit, but the best way to interpret poems is to just reread them continually, because from one reading, it's impossible to navigate through a whole poem. It's like if you watch a movie once, you'll get one interpretation. If you watch a movie twice, you'll get maybe something different. And maybe that's even the intention of the poet, is that you see something different each time. So that's one foundational thing, is rereading it, and not necessarily trying to find what you want to find, but, you know, being open to what the poem is existing to be. I'll say that. I heard someone say once that, you know, we oftentimes say, well, what is the, or even as teachers, we say, what is the poem trying to say? Or what is the poet trying to say? Well, they're not trying to say anything. I mean, the poem is there, so it's what we interpret it as. So, you know, we shouldn't be going, that's another thing, I guess, is we shouldn't be going for what it's trying to do, but, you know, what do we see in it that reflects back on us? You know, it's kind of like a mirror effect. You know, what do you see? So those would be my answers for that.
Joey?
Yeah, okay. My first question was, how did you come up with all the ideas of the poems you've written?
Yeah, thanks. Again, it's a lot of times just sometimes like I'll hear a line in my head and I'll just like type it in my phone and, you know, maybe come back to it at a certain time, maybe weeks later. You know, I listen for prompts. A lot of the things I'm noticing comes from popular culture, like what's going on in society, politics, cultural events. A lot of my work particularly deals with, you know, race, social justice. So sometimes things come from that, but mainly anything, just being open to, you know, what could possibly be a poem, or just challenging myself and seeing what types of poems I can write, like sonnets maybe, or different forms, like I said, with the contrapuntal and other poetic forms. So it could come from anywhere, and I try not to limit myself.
Okay, well, and my other question was, what do you think is most important about the poem, A Blank Man Gives You Insight?
Well, that poem was written in response to the last solar eclipse that we had, and it came like straight through South Carolina. So I was just looking at it as a Black person might look at it, especially in the political climate that we are in and were in during that time that the eclipse happened. So I guess the most important thing is seeing space, or seeing things as, you know, through the lens of race, I guess, would be a good way of looking at it.
Can I follow up with, what do you mean by political climate? Like, what were you thinking of in terms of the political climate?
Actually, in that poem, there's a line. There are several lines about the president, and so yeah, I think this was pre 2016 election. So a lot of those things that were happening then came out in that poem, but just trying to see, I guess, you know, because reflecting on the title, A Blind Man Gives You Insight. So a lot of times people label people as being blind because they don't know, like they don't have enough information, but sometimes blindness can be a gift in a lot of ways.
So it's me next. My question was, would you mind going through the thought process of, in regards to the structure of Battle Royale to Brown Boys? Because I was reading it and then I saw that there was some that was one indent and then two indents and then three indents. And I felt like there was like a certain meaning to one column compared to another. Unless
Sure. Yeah. I pay a lot of attention to the structure of the poem, because since it is on the page, I mean, it like a lot of times, you know, we look at things that are appealing to the eye, like, you know, with our phones and social media, like if something catches your eye, then you're going to look at it. So I often think about like how people see the poem. So sometimes I may use indentation as like pausing or just how it is seen or how it is read on the page. So sometimes that's a factor. It's just the way I enjoy it, or I enjoy looking at the poem, or the way I interpret it as looking. You know, it could just be in paragraph form, right? That's kind of the way a lot of my poems start out, is like, you know, prose paragraph form. But then I'm like, okay, well, you know, it's kind of like a sculptor with working with clay or something like that. You know, well, what can this clay lump? This is a lump right now, but you know, what kind of form can it take on? So, um, and then oftentimes it's not like a concrete type of thing that you know would see in our world. Sometimes it's just like an abstract form. So I oftentimes experiment with those things. So I'm glad that you asked that.
I didn't know if it was intentional, but I noticed that the ones that were indented, like furthest left, it kept saying two brown boys and just describing them. And then when you indented one, the middle, I saw that it was I noticed that it was mostly talking about Americans in general. Uh, the white boys, the American history. And then I noticed when you indented more, you were talking about manifestation of destiny, like you have the power to create your own future. I just noticed that in the poem, that it seemed like that was kind of the structure, where the left was talking about the brown boys, the middle was talking about American history, and the white boys and the right was talking about your choice. That's what I noticed. But
That's a phenomenal interpretation of that. Obviously, the two brown boys is something that is being emphasized.
mhm.
So the fact that you have this African American and then this Middle Eastern boy, and they're at war with each other, when, you know, I guess the rest of, you know, the environment or the people around them, which
It's
happen to be
against them.
white, yeah, they're just like watching this, you know, it's sort of like the white gaze, you know, in a way.
Mhm.
So that's a fabulous way of looking at the structure of it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Mr. Lawson. I have two questions. My
Hi.
first one is, what do you hope readers take away or understand after reading Chime?
Thanks. I hope that, you know, they see perhaps me as a different poet than, I guess, than when I originally started. Uh, Books of poetry are usually like a journey for the poet, because when you see the finished product, these are probably like years of poems put together. It's not like, okay, let me sit down and write this book here. It doesn't work kind of like that with like novels or nonfiction or anything like that. It's kind of like an album for a songwriter or an artist or a rapper or something like that. You know, they have these songs that they created, and if they amass to something, that if they have a connection or a common bond, then, you know, a book may form. And so with Chime, these are a lot of early poems, when a lot of raw poems too, that before I started to like really hone on my craft, I think. So to me, it's like a progression in and out of my experience as a poet. But yeah, just seeing a person who enjoys poetry and loves it and wants to write it and wants to have a voice that people will hear, hopefully.
Okay, thank you. That's a nice answer. And my second question is,
I'm sorry, Charlotte, I
Yeah.
know you have a second question, but I want to just jump on something really quickly that you said, Len. So this goes to Yusuf, because you're talking about them being early poets. And Yusuf asked, do you edit your poems, or is it usually a first draft? Like, when do you feel a poem is complete? And then Charlotte, you can ask your second. So since we're already there.
Yeah, that's the age-old question, you know, when is the poem finished? And I have yet to hear like a substantial answer to that. But I guess I can throw my hat in the ring since you asked me. Um, you know, I think it's infinite. It can always be edited, it can always be reworked, it can always be changed. So it's just when the poet feels like, okay, there's a period on this, or it may even be just a comma on this for now, you know. So you're just when you submit something for publication, it's like you're saying, or you're kind of asking the question, okay, what do you feel about this? So you know, it could obviously be just like an essay, it could continually be reworked and reworked and reworked. You can find things until, you know, but thankfully we have things called deadlines that make us say, okay, I gotta stop. So I can't just keep working on this as long as I want. But essentially, yeah, that's the editorial process is just as, if not more so important as the writing itself. So that's where really the poem comes together. And like I was saying, using the analogy of birth, you know, it continuously forms and reforms itself, and you know, could become something totally different by the time it's birthed.
Back to you, Charlotte.
Okay, and I wanted to know, what events do you find yourself writing about most often? Is there something that's happened recently that maybe you want to write about? I was thinking about Prayer to, or Hymn to Tiki God, which is written after Charlottesville. That was what I was thinking about. Do you find yourself writing about these political events really often? Like, what inspires you? Like, what events?
Yeah, I definitely think so. You know, Nina Simone is famous for saying that the purpose of the artist is to reflect the times. And so to really discuss like what's happening in the world right now is part of the poet's objective, I think. Oftentimes we try to abandon what's going on in the world right now because it's like deemed as too political, but poets get criticized for that sometimes, writers even. But you know, for me as a poet, you know, it's kind of like this burden I feel that if I don't write about what I feel inside to that it needs to come out, then it's really going to haunt me that that I try to ignore it. So, but again, inspiration for me can come from anything. Believe it or not, I even wrote a poem about Meg Thee Stallion getting shot in the foot recently, which I never thought it would come out. But,
you should share it. Please share.
Yeah, there's a lot to say about that. Just the way people behave in response to her. Yeah, I think that would be an amazing poem to hear.
Yeah. So pop culture is something I write a lot about. The death of Chadwick Boseman I recently wrote about. So I got to stay on top of what the kids are doing nowadays. I'm 40 years old, so.
So I want to quickly say it's 11:06, so we're out of time. I'm going to say to those that I didn't get to, such as Ralph, Danny, and a couple of more, Veronica, I apologize, we didn't get to every question. I'm going to end with Mona because she has a question about one of your poems specifically. Those of you who have class, it's understandable. So if you have to go, thank you.
It was nice meeting you. I have to go.
And I'm just going to ask if it's okay, Mr. Lawson, for Mona to ask her question.
Please.
Final question. Okay. Mona. Kamaya, I'm sorry as well. I don't know. Is Mona still here? Did she leave?
I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Thank you so much. My question is, can you describe me the love that you feel for South Carolina by writing a love letter for her, for South Carolina?
Yeah, thanks for that. It's a very like mixed type of relationship. I've lived here my whole life, so it's kind of like a love-hate relationship. I think we both need each other because I need, like, in the South, we have these environments that are no other. You know, the open space, the wilderness, um, the wildlife, you know, just everything is beautiful in places, but also that beauty is overshadowed a lot by like history. So that's kind of what I was trying to get at in that love letter to South Carolina is really a pain letter instead of a love letter. But you know, it's such a complex relationship. I often think about when is a good time, or if I should leave, and when is a good time to leave to pursue other things. That, again, in my dissertation, that's kind of what I'm trying to investigate too, which is with these poets that I've been reading, is when was it a good time for them to leave, and why did they have to leave, and when was a good time to return, you know, to get away from, you know, what they've known all their life, and then figure out, you know, how can I leave this in a good fashion, or if I'm leaving in a good fashion, and then once I'm in a different place, what does that place that I originated from look like from this view, you know, from this other view. So it's kind of like a mixed relationship to me. You know, this is where my family is. This is the only thing I've known. I've visited other places, obviously, but this has always been home. So I guess there's a question mark for right now. We'll see if it changes, but it really hasn't over the time that I've lived here. But thank you.
While I was reading it, I see the relationship with your South Carolina with my country where I come from is like at the
And where is that, in my mask?
and you see people do bad thing and you always feel better to be there. I mean, to live there and to feel okay with your family, everything. But the people react with, so, but beside all of that, so you still love where you come from.
And where are you from, if I may ask?
I'm from Haiti.
Oh, okay, excellent.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
that's a
you.
great question. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I will end by saying thank you to everyone who came, whether you are in the class or not. Again, I apologize to Danny, Ralph, Kamaya, and Veronica for not getting to your questions. Anyone I didn't name, I apologize as well. Thank you, Mr. Lawson, for being willing to read and speak to the class and answer questions as well. We really, really, really appreciate it. Oh, and he just put in the chat his email address. Email your questions if you have them, and he's willing to respond. Always the professor.
Thank you. By the way, this isn't related to your poems or anything, but did you see any of the town halls last night? I'm just curious. I'm sorry, I'm really invested in politics. I just wanted to know. I feel like you might be as well.
Yeah, I caught a couple of minutes of the Biden town hall. I thought the format was ridiculous. Just, you know, two different town halls on two different channels. So I was like kind of turned off by that. But yeah, I guess I didn't see anything that I didn't already know from the town hall. So I guess I'll look forward to the one where they're actually in the same room together.
Yeah, me too. I hope it goes better than the last time. I'll say that.
And Charlotte, we will have a conversation on Monday about Ice Cube's contract.
Oh,
Ice
yeah.
Cube's contract?
Yeah, so read it over the weekend.
Okay.
Yes, his contract with Black America, or for Black.
Oh, wait, that clown who is endorsing Trump now? Okay, yeah. Okay, I remember. I saw that on Twitter. I had to jog my memory. Yes. Okay, yeah.
We'll have that conversation. Okay, so thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you. Have a great weekend, Mr. Lawson. All right. Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks, everyone else. Have a great weekend. I am now going to stop recording.